Welcome to day one of IMLEC 22 this year at Guildford Model Engineering Society. Guildford have been around since the late 50s, and the track began built in 59, extended in 76 into its current shape for the racetrack, and in the 90s the 7.25 added around the outside. You can Google this and find it elsewhere. So, on to the day. This is a view at the dynamometer car and a standard double trolley and guards van. They are reportedly very heavy trolleys, as we shall see. A slightly unusual setup in a single-seater dynamometer car. First up, we have Nick Jackson from Surrey Society of Model Engineers. This is a 5-inch Speedy, number 1501.
I get given the number of passengers.
So these runs started at midday on Friday the 22nd. So here he's connecting up. Looks like he's got a good head, and he's going for the standard rake. Nothing unusual to see so far. This looks like a pretty standard beginning. For 3 passengers, so you can see the observer sat behind the driver and the dynamometer car. The observer can see the gauges and dials on the dyno car. Then you've got 3 passengers in the white, the blue and the black, and then a guard in his own separate truck at the back with the back brakes. He got away well, made a good start, and this is now downhill as he's pulled away. Downhill to the right, to the left, and round the back of the steaming bays. Speaking of steam bays, here is a view across said steaming bays. The big yellow Harry is the Club 7.25 loco. Here he comes, he's made his way around the steaming bays and he's attacking the bottom of the main people under the bridge, climbing up towards the clubhouse. Unfortunately I didn't get that shot, but here he is coming around again. This climb he's hitting now is a lot harsher than it looks, and as we shall see throughout, or maybe I didn't catch some of these, but as we'll see over the weekend, this corner catches a lot of people out. In the words of one driver, it feels like the brakes have come on as you run into it. He hasn't dropped any passengers, he's still got his load, but has slowed to a very crawl as he makes it over the smaller summit past completing his lap.
That's got 2 hill drives.
I wonder who this is. In his own words, dead man walking. This is a view up the long climb towards the clubhouse. Still the Speedy. On the gradient map, this lists it as being 1 in 130, 1 in 110 maybe. I'm consulting the gradient map. And I can find it. It's about, most gradients are 110, 120 or 130 overall. So he's had a good run. You can see one of the Guildford members really passing more water. This engine certainly looks like it's got a healthy appetite for water. And on to the next engine. I will look at the scores at the end of the video. We'll have the scoreboard up. So who's this? This is Tom Pyram. This time we're on board, so there won't be any off shots. This is going to be a torch through double lap. So this is the downhill. You can see the steaming bays on the left with the lighted optional trolleys. So this is downhill and we're starting to pick back up now. So the first real climb of a lap. The signals are off, they're not needed from NEC. But it does tell us this is the normal direction of running. So Tom at this point has 9 passengers. We might have already got to 7 running. Depends on what we are in the run. So Tornado slipping a little bit, slowing, but crucially still moving. This is still a climb, 1 in 100 and something or other. levels across this bendy beam, and then under the bridge up to the right is the long hard climb. Now throughout the day, many locos came to stand, but we're still going, we're still moving. You can see the 7 1/4 track that runs generally the opposite direction, but to our left. We have the most important tent of all, the grub tent. And the entrance roadway on the left. This bridge represents the top of the hill. So he's done it well to keep it moving up until here. We've got 3 trolleys on, plus the guard, plus the guard. And now we're down quite sharply, it's on that 72 now. Now for this quite tight tunnel in the camera this way. And then we've got down through their station. So if you want a public run, you've got a nice downhill release. We'll run into the S-bend round the steaming bays. Again, 7 1/4 on the left. Through the gardens, sweeping to the right, and down still. There's also down here about 100 something on. Just past this signal down here is somewhere near the bottom there. This is the harsh up right hand that catches people out and does massively drag the speed away. We saw people thrash into this bottom corner at the speed limit, and be crawling past the start line. You see the time on the board, 5 minutes 31 for that lap. As we shall see, having completed 1 lap, the second lap follows a lot quicker. So we go back down the downhill, a short downhill, it's not long. To the left, somewhere around here we pick up again, start to climb up to the top. Still those on the left, 16mm on the right, cage 1 is that one behind the bush. Heading around now towards the other bendy beam. That's on cage 1. Places, and up we go again. Tornado in its stride, but with the road conditions and the weight of these trolleys, this is a good one. And made it much easier that time. Again, we cleared the hill and dive back down through the tunnel. Station. S-bend to the left. Bays and garden areas on the right. Through these lovely gardens. So the tornado we are riding on was built by Ed Pritchard. It is an absolutely beautiful thing. This is the most I've ever seen anything up to exhaust. It just doesn't make noise. It's actually time started at 12:45. So 5:31 was his first lap time. What's the time say? 7:42. So we've done the twice as fast second time round. On to our third entry now of David Shepherd. This with a Poly 5. David's from Bracknell. He's run a few IMLECs over the years. He was at Maidstone last year. This is a Poly 5, but it does run with a tender, so I guess 5.5. But we'll see. It's a shame we couldn't get closer because he just wheel spins. Again, he's taken the standard double trolley and he goes absolutely nowhere. He's just standing still, spinning his wheels. He tries setting back. So where they've started him from the guards trolley and maybe the second back trolley are on the end of that first climb up. So even from a standing start from this position, you are pulling uphill, which is a bit unkind, should we say. And David here showing just how difficult it can be to move off. It had been spitting, but nothing undue. So he's setting back here now, a little bit, just to make sure, and then he'll try again. But really not getting anywhere very quickly. It's a shame, I'd love to have seen this Polly romp round. And I know that Polly can romp round. I've seen it romp round. So why it just couldn't move off is a little bit of a mystery. Right, so run 4. Les Pritchard, the first of the 3.5s. This is a Mona. And it does run very well. It sounds very sweet. And he was the only entry of day 1 that took one of the smaller driving trolleys. And he had a young child as a passenger.
I don't feel any shame. I would have liked
A pretty faultless run. It just more or less got on with it. It was slipping at times. Sometimes quite severely slipping. But it got on with it. It just ran and ran and ran. And we shall see when we get to the scores at the end. He covers about the same distance within feet measurements of Tom on Tornado. So he does very well for a 3.5, for a small 3.5 tank engine. It's got a good history in Little Lex. And it was built around the mid-70s. A cracking little engine. Les started at 2:15. And he just went and went and went and went and went, no fuss at all. So I did get a nice lot of shots of Les. It really did just show what a 3.5 can do, given the right load and being well driven and built. But next up is an interesting comparison, and possibly quite telling. Does sound big for this little moment. That's him in little moaners about, but yeah, he certainly goes very well. It'll be a good idea to see that. So here we are, another 3.5. This on Danny Hayward's Mustang. It's a 1940s build, 282 freelance, although wouldn't look out of place in an RHDI livery. So Danny has opted for the standard trolleys, but only one. So he's got the dyno car, the single trolley, and then the brake. He gets away, well, a little bit slipping, but that's not unusual when you're taxing your engine to get the best out of it. He gets away reasonably well. So a bit of a beast of an engine, this one. I was looking forward to see winning. Been recently rebuilt by Danny during 21-22 with help from others. Danny is a full-time railway person, shall we say? Those that know him. He spends most of his time on a certain North Wales narrow gauge railway. So he's made it round the steaming bays and now about to go and attack the climb. Only single passenger, but there is plenty of weight there. Here comes. Oh look, no passenger or guard. So that first lap of Danny's was eventful. He basically slipped to a stand on the main climb, which is a pattern we'll see continuing. This is Danny finishing his run. Danny didn't get that many laps in because of various reasons, including his pony truck. Decided it didn't want to run on the rails and just sort of hang in the air, floating off to the side, which wasn't great and did cost him to stop to re-rail it, which unfortunately did slightly upset his run. But a cracking engine to see nonetheless. I don't doubt it has a good future in IMLEC under better conditions. So here we are, the next one. Matt Butler, he's a Guildford member, a regular runner here at Guildford. He started at 4:45. This is a 5-inch B1 called Gazelle. He's running previous IMLECs, including at Maidstone last year, where he ran first and took the guinea pig run. Matt described conditions as difficult. Running 2 weeks ago, conditions were completely different and he managed to pull a decent load all afternoon. But he did struggle for load, he did have to drop some passengers. Once he found his rhythm, while not the speediest run of any by any means, it was a good solid run once he found his load and rhythm, and he put a good show in. So, John Williams finishing off day one on Friday with from Southport with a Nigel Grizzly 280. John's done him next before. He's a brilliant engineer.
There's always someone in the way in there.
Grizzlies have a good reputation for pulling and a good history in IMLEC. They tend to do quite well. He's gone with the standard double trolley set, 2 passengers, and gets away.
What's Bristol's track?
Well.
Good. Don't worry about it.
Heading round to the steaming bays. Slowed, but not unusual for a first lap, heading up under the bridge. And quite a pattern, we saw him coming back again. No, this isn't backwards, he did really set back. Quite a few did, I just happened to catch this one. And here he comes again, attempt number 2. He just slipped to a stand on the horrible bit. Again, lots of familiar IMLEC regular faces around. So he's slowing quite considerably, but we can still see he's moving up behind the score tent passenger station gathering area. And he's approaching the area where everybody seems to be finding difficulty, although still moving. And now he's all but made it over the top. He just kept it going, kept it plodding.
That's with the regulator shut. Because their wheels.
So he's made it, he's coming down on the steep downhill.
Yeah, no resistance at all.
But from there it didn't quite go so well. He crawled round, had to drop passengers, had some more slippage, did make a few more laps, and this is the end of his day. So while we watch and just see John uncoupling. So in summary, day one, quite a bit of slipping. Heavy trolley is heavier than pretty much most people anticipated. The light trolleys do seem light and quite manageable. Rail appeared to have a slight film on it, although not wet, greasy or oily by any means, although was noticeably very slippery. Their track is challenging, their gradients are sharp, most of them into corners, so dragging so many trolleys, counting the dyno car and the guard on top of passenger trolleys, that's a lot of wheels, axles and flanges to drag, so I'm not surprised they feel quite heavy. Oh, and then this caught my eye before we get to the scores. An 8F on quite a considerable load on gauge 1. So let's take a look at the scores for the day. And holding pole for the first day at least, Tom Pyram, the only person to score over 1%, 1.185. That is a lower score than we typically see at IMLECs, although in these such changing conditions, gradients, track and weights, that's a solid score. Followed by Matt Butler with 0.707. Les Pritchard, the 3.5 that just flew, 0.563. That's a pretty solid score for a 3.5, especially a small engine like that. Absolutely working. John Williams, the final run we just saw with the Grizzly 280. Funny enough, scored 0.282, almost his wheel arrangement. Danny's Mustang, after all the troubles he had, finished on 0.153. After that, we have the two retirees, Nick Jackson, the speed at the start of the day, and the Poly 5, David Shepherd. David just know that they both struggled more than they probably should have done, but gave good performances nonetheless. So, thank you for watching. We'll post day 2 once day 2 has happened, followed by day 3 once day 3 has happened. Day 3 might be a tad different because my run is day 3, so some runs might only have a smidgen of coverage. There are plenty of videos, other videos on YouTube about what IMLEC is, about previous IMLECs. Do take a look. I know some other people will be posting videos from this year. IMLEC is a great event. I fully encourage more people to attend, watch, enter, run, host. It's a great fun weekend. Really, going there, you realise you know more people than you thought you did. So I'll see you all tomorrow.